Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to be here with you as well. It's tables return this time because we did this, what was it, about a year and a half ago?
Probably a year and a half ago, back in Toronto.
Yes, you had me on your podcast.
It was one of my first podcasts of that new version of podcast. So first one here.
Yeah.
Maybe symbolic.
And the first one here at Outpost. So we are at this really cool new co-working space here in Nosada called Outpost. And they've got the little podcast studio here. So we're popping the cherry.
Cool.
Yeah. So Gio and family recently came down to Nosada, Costa Rica. You guys were here last season.
Yep.
And then you decided to come back and spend the whole winter here.
And maybe longer.
And maybe longer, yeah.
Open-ended right now.
Yeah. Not a bad plan.
We just go with the flow and just allowing things to unfold, trying not to control the future and plan too much. It's like, hey, this feels good right now, considering all the circumstances. So we're here, we're enjoying it, we're making it work, and that's been great so far.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for making time to sit down and chat with me. Gio and I have known each other for probably about 2-3 years, somewhere.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I can't remember how we met.
A few mutual contacts kept saying, hey, you got to connect with Zark.
Okay.
People were telling me what you do in your live experience.
Okay.
And they're saying, you got to connect after a couple of people. Like once 2 or 3 people say, you got to connect with someone, I take it as a sign. Let's connect. Let's see, there's something there that at least a conversation that has to be had. And, right away, I think we hit it off and became buddies and doing similar work. So it's just great to always have these refreshing conversations and
Absolutely.
catching up.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to this one because even though we've known each other for a few years, I actually don't know your backstory. So I'm get a chance to learn today about how you got to where you are with Elemental, being a breathwork facilitator, working with Rhythmia, and doing all the other transformational magic that you do. So take me back. First off, I want to know, before you got into breathwork and this path, what were you doing before, and what kind of led you to this journey?
Yeah, I guess I'll start right from the beginning. My parents.
Way back, right?
Yeah, way
back.
So just to set the tone, I grew up in a place called Woodbridge or Vaughan, north of Ontario.
Woodbridge.
So a lot of pressure to conform. A lot of people had a lot of money. A lot of people had these family businesses. My parents didn't, but they ended up moving there. And my dad, worked for himself, worked for a few companies. My mom worked in the school board. So, they made okay money, not a huge amount. But I was always surrounded by people that had a lot of money or showed that they had a lot of money.
Right.
And my parents wanted me to do better than them, just like their parents were immigrants that wanted their kids to go to school. And then my dad's shortcomings wanted me to sort of fulfill his dreams and become a chartered accountant. So, I was lucky enough to be a smart kid growing up. So I did well in school. I got into a business school called Schulich at York.
Yeah.
It had all this pressure to become an accountant. And I remember third year tax law. This was kind of the first time I ever paid attention to numbers. I'll never forget that the total amount for the textbook, which was like this thick, was like a brick, $111. I remember that standing out for some reason. And as I'm carrying it back in the middle of winter, walking to my car, I'm just really something in me, my intuition was like, this is not for you. And I turned around and I knew I had 24 hours to get the full refund or some short window to get the full refund. Then every day after it starts reducing. And that was working at Jack Astor's as a waiter at the time. So every dollar counted. Turned around, returned it, decided listen, I'm going to do what I want to do. I didn't know what it was. So I changed all to entrepreneur and marketing courses, which I had a knack for. I like that. I had a t-shirt company at the time called Ryan Ginger. So I was like, I'm going to go the entrepreneur route and see what happens. And so from there, this pressure to be successful, to do better than my parents, to keep up with all the people around me was just fueling me, So I wanted to do well. And I was doing all kinds of different things, some all on the entrepreneurial path. I was a Primerica insurance agent at one time. Okay. I worked many different jobs. Like I said, I was a waiter at a bar. Then I got into the food industry and I got into sales, which I liked because sales was almost like entrepreneur. If I'm a sales, I can make a commission. I didn't really have to worry about the whole business, but I could sell. So I did well at that. I excelled. I started making some money. I started investing some of that money, doing different businesses. I got into construction because I thought, like everyone in Woodbridge does construction. These guys make all this money. It must be good. I want to learn about it. And really just put too much on my plate like I always did. And I remember waking up one day, and my checklist, I got married, had kids, had a house, had a car, you had this like comfortable lifestyle. You know, wasn't rich, but I was okay. And I just felt this lack, and I didn't know what it was. It was like kind of like an emptiness or unfulfillment. I remember having a daydream. I was sitting at the edge of my bed. I looked at my hands. I remember seeing like a glimpse of almost like an old man's hands, like my grandfather, really old, wrinkly, veiny. And like I was just like, took me back for a moment. And it was like this thought in my head was like, you can keep doing this the rest of your life. No one's really going to care. And, you know, you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be over. And you're not going to do anything meaningful or anything with purpose. And that really hit me.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And that sat with me for a while. And the more I thought about that, the more I started feeling this.
How old were you at this point?
Probably like 28.
Okay, so you're young. So 28, you're married, your kids. You're married with kids, have a couple of businesses at this point, investing.
Working a lot, seeing some success, nothing huge, but, you know, I never really had to worry about money. Like I worry about my businesses, but like, you know, I always had enough money to get by, pay my bills, do what I want, go on vacation. And, you know, it was like starting from scratch. It's like I knew that like I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, but I was so committed everywhere that I had no out, you know? A lot of investments in companies that were sort of just turning the money over, partners that weren't aligned with me. And, you know, like it brought up a lot in me as well. It's like I always say to people, like an entrepreneurial path is also can be a spiritual path if you have the eyes to see the challenges. It's challenging you like on a different level, like how you show up, how you treat people, how you make decisions when no one's watching. And the more I was in these businesses, the more I'd feel this like repulsion when I'd be around people, when I'd be in the office, when I get on a sales call, when I'd have to go out and do something. I just felt inside of me, which was my intuition or was my higher self saying, hey, you're out of alignment, dude. Like you need to change. I didn't know what that meant yet.
Okay.
And so I started searching. I started looking for answers. I started, you know, looking into more like spiritual. Like I was kind of healthy. Like I was a vegetarian at the time. I was into my health, but you know, spirituality was something that I thought about but didn't really practice. You know, I grew up Catholic, Christian, Catholic. I don't even know what the difference is really, but believing in Jesus, I guess, but really always questioning like, what does this all mean? You know. So I started reading like philosophical texts. I started reading anything I get my hands on, really, like Stoic philosophy, Buddhist. I was reading about all different sorts of things, and I remember doing some like really interesting Google searches and finding, you know, rabbit holes on YouTube and going down conspiracy roads and you know, Buddhist sort of talks, and coming along to this guy called Terence McKenna. I remember just like in a comment in an Alan Watts video, like someone's like, check out Terence McKenna, he'll blow your mind. It's like, okay, I'll do it. And that's when I got sort of hit with the psychedelics sort of called me, ayahuasca specifically. It was just like as soon as I heard the first person speak about it, like this pull is like, wow, you need to know what he's talking about. Not just like listen, like you need to experience. Yeah, so I felt this call to learn more, and at that time, like synchronicity started popping up everywhere in my life. So, you know, we're watching Netflix, my wife's pregnant with my second child, and DMT, the spirit molecule, comes on the TV. And I've just been listening to Terence McKenna, and he's like a poet. So we watched this, and again, like seeing the people's eyes telling their stories, their DMT experience, like me, I could feel it in my body. It was like, yes, like do that. Right. So I reached out to Rick Strassman. He was the scientist that wrote the book, the DMT, the spirit molecule. Cool. And I'm talking to him via email. And he's like, yeah, there's no DMT studies going on, but go check out ayahuasca. Here's where I would recommend to go. So I ended up going to Brazil, convinced my wife, a lot of negotiation. Like, hey, you know, like I got to do this thing. I got to drink some like magic potion in an exotic in the jungle.
And this is going back like what, 8 years?
This is like 2012.
2012. So yeah, 9 years?
10 years ago.
10 years
and
ago,
really no one was talking about this stuff back then. Like it was very new.
Very fringe. It was.
Listen, people were talking about it. I didn't know anyone was talking about it. Okay. You know, no one in my circles, no one I really knew. And I reached out and I connected with this guy down there, and I just really negotiated with my wife. I'm like, listen, like I got to do this. Like it's just such a strong calling. And she's like, I don't know, you're kind of crazy, blah, blah, blah. Everyone knew I was kind of a bit crazy, but this was like putting it over the edge. And eventually I went, and we had an agreement that felt good. And I went for 2 weeks, and it just really changed my life. It just shifted my perspective on life, death, who I was, came back, and really, like most people have their first experience, wants to share with the world, and thinking like everyone needs to do this. Like, hey, I found this thing. Like it's awesome. And like everyone just looked at me like I had two heads. And so I kind of retracted a bit and was like, okay, I want to share this story, but I want to make sure like every time I was having a conversation to tell them about like the history and like the science and like how people are changing. And when I came back also, I was able to find ayahuasca almost everywhere. Like it was like I was connected to it. And so I met people who were doing it for a long time. And I just found this network. I was doing a podcast at the time for a company that had a blog, and it allowed me to connect with a lot of people. So you know what, I'm just gonna make a documentary. And no experience making documentaries. You know, I come from the food industry and like food manufacturing and all this crap. So I buy a camera, I get some gear, I start, you know, I get some people to help me, and I make this documentary called Psyched Out. And the whole intention was just to share it. I self-funded, it cost me like $10K. I said, I just want to give this to the world and just share. And, you know, I didn't know at the time, but now that sort of allowed me to create so many amazing relationships where I'm working with psychedelic companies now as an advisor, or just other people in the space that saw it and reached out to me. But that just came from a calling. So like from a business perspective, it was a horrible investment. Like there was no real purpose. It was just like, you're just throwing $10,000 away. But I've learned, and I'll talk about more some of the other examples of how sometimes when you follow your heart, there's these other things that come out of it that you can never monetize like with a number, but it will create so much value and so much abundance for you in other ways.
And opens new doors.
So,
and even sometimes when, you know, you have that goal, that objective, even though you may not achieve it, and, you know, some people call that a failure, I like to say you just didn't achieve your desired result. You know, in the learning that happens through that experience, those are valuable lessons that can help you with a future win that might be way bigger than what it was you were working on. So, you know, and as entrepreneurs, we all know there's many times where we don't achieve the goal that we're working towards, and we have to just, like you said, have that mindset of, hey, okay, I'm going to learn from this and apply it to the next project and be that much more successful.
Yeah, because before the question was, can I make money doing this? It wasn't, hey, am I going to enjoy doing this? Or is this going to create value? Or is this going to serve a higher purpose? Or like whatever. It's like, can this make money? I have all these crazy ideas. I started a company called Socks with Locks, even before they had them on Dragon's Den.
Okay.
I saw this lady come in, she was blind. She talked about how she matched her socks. She put a pin together. Like, oh, I'm going to put some snaps on socks so people can snap.
Oh, that's right.
Because we have 3 brothers. Everyone's always like going through 100,000 socks. My mom does laundry. It's like, hey, if we snap them together, throw them in, they wash, they come out. Didn't really go anywhere because, like, I guess losing socks is good for business.
Yeah.
Great for consumers, not so good for sock sales. Anyways, and so this one, so I did that. I made the documentary, and then I just started going down this path. I was still in a few businesses that I didn't align with, but I was starting to find myself. I was starting to like learn more about myself, doing more plant medicine. A lot of the programming that I had, I was starting to see it for what it was, and starting to just really change my mindset, how I was treating people. Then with the podcast I was doing, I had the opportunity to meet Wim Hof. And, you know, I was doing some small groups. We just hosted and have like people who are also open-minded, because I was really, what I was looking for at that time was community.
Right.
So I felt like I was on a different path. All my old friends were not ready for what I was doing, which is great. You know, everyone's on their own path. Now, a lot of them have sort of come back and started asking questions, which I love. But at that time I was like, hey dude, yeah, that's cool, but not for us. So looking for a community, I started inviting people to come and just hang out. We talk about different things, about meditation, about, you know, health and psychedelics. And I was wanting to find someone that was inspiring to share like about human potential. Okay. So I find this guy, Wim Hof. And again, like I had this moment where I'm watching this video. I'm like, oh, I got to meet this guy one day. This guy's so interesting. Like I'm going to do it. And I reach out to him like, hey, Wim, you know, I'd love to have you on a podcast. You know, what do you think? And this is before he was like super, you know, famous. And they're like, yeah, of course. We'll hop on a call. We're just chatting. And we just hit it off, became friends. Like, come to LA, come do the training. Nice. It was our first training.
Wow. The first Wim Hof training.
It was the first Wim Hof training. And he's like, come check it out. I'm like, sure. So I go down there, check it out. Loved it. He ends up inviting me to the full certification, which was in Colorado the following fall, which now is about 2016. So I'm just sort of getting into breathwork. Okay. But still at the time, it was like, I was still kind of ego-based. I was like trying to build an Instagram following. I had my podcast. I was trying to get followers. But I was learning about, you know, like, why was I actually doing this? You know, like that was
what was driving you?
Things that were coming up. And I realized, you know, like for me, I'd rather just really connect deeply with a few people than have a huge following that I have no connection with. And so like the podcast is more directed at anyone who feels called for this, like connect with me. Like I want to hear from you. And so, you know, I was still figuring that out at that time. And I thought, oh, it's going to be so cool to take a picture on a mountain with Wim Hof and my shorts, with Eagle, like blah, blah, blah. And I get there and there's like 30 people from all over North America. Young to old, different ages, different backgrounds, different professions. and they're all sharing how breathwork changed their life, how impactful it was, healing from, sickness, mental health, just improving performance. And it gets to me, and I'm just like, shit, I'm just here for the picture type of I feel like an imposter. And the breathwork, I was practicing it here and there. I wasn't really too serious about it, but that weekend something happened where Wim took us on this deeper journey. And I'm breathing, I'm just really like giving it my all. And I had this out of body experience where I totally ate my body. Yeah. And I was kind of like freaked out by it because like I didn't take anything, and I was just like floating around the room. And I come back and I just start crying like a baby, like years of tears holding back of like, it felt like I was trying to be something that I wasn't, and had all this pressure to do it. And at that moment, I just like kind of like let it go. Like, it's okay to just be me. Like I don't have to be anyone except whoever I want to be.
Wow. That's years and years of conditioning.
And it was just like so cathartic. Like I felt like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And I just allowed myself to cry around 30 guys, mainly guys, probably like 5 or 6 women. And I didn't care. I didn't care at all. And I was just like, whatever, like I'm crying. Like, I don't give a shit.
And you probably weren't the only one crying.
No, it probably wasn't. When you're in that space, it doesn't even matter who's there. Like you lose track. But after that, I sort of came back and was like, okay, like what am I going to do with this now? Like this, I'm inspired to share this. So I was sharing the Wim Hof method, but I was really interested in what happened to me. So I started diving down that, like more introspective, more deeper journeys with the breath. So I started going like transformational breath work, trying holotropic, trying all these different styles. And I found things I liked about some of them and things that I didn't like. And I started really creating something for myself to use, which was how elemental rhythm was sort of like born. And I just started playing with it, and I started sharing it around. I started like having like get-togethers or like little sessions, and people were also having deep experience like I was. So I was like, okay, there's something here. And I just followed this intuitive guide. So every time I do a breath work, I have an idea. And I was like, okay, let me follow that because it felt good. Right. I didn't know if it was going to work, but I said, I'm going to try it anyways. And after doing that for a while, I really started feeling the calling of being of service. If someone after a class would call me and say, hey, that was so impactful, thank you. Like the feeling I would get from that was way better than doing a deal in the food business and making like a certain amount of money, like 20 grand in a deal. It was like, used to get me so like pumped up, get the adrenaline flowing, but it wouldn't last long. Like, it's like back to the grind the next day. Yeah. This was something that hit me in a different place, and I knew like, hey, you need to do more of this. Yeah. So this is like comes where like the big pivot to purpose happens, right? So around here, I'm thinking about it. I'm not really ready to commit to that. I don't know how I'm going to make money doing it. And I'm starting to do my own style of breath work, starting to do more sessions. And I'm like, I need a place, and this sort of like short gap in my life probably lasted about a month. I think it was around early 2017. I don't know what happened, but I called my real estate agent and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a place. He's like, what are you going to do there? I'm like, I'm not too sure. I want to do breath work. And he's like, what's that? And he's like, you don't really care. He's like, okay, great. What are you looking for? I didn't really know. And I'm like, I knew that I didn't want it to be a hangout, because as an entrepreneur, a hangout just becomes a money pit, right? So I need that type of business around something, building a community around. And I want to have a really cool vibe to it, kind of spiritual, kind of like, but not too woo-woo. So I want to attract people like myself who are kind of looking for that, don't want to get scared off by going into like some like hippie village type thing. This is the vision forming in my head. So we go see the first place. The guy doesn't even show up. Second place we go see, it's kind of an industrial area. It's got a lot of parking. It's an empty shell. The address is 999 Edgeley Boulevard, Unit 3. So all the numerology is like hitting me, and it's like, this is the place. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it. Like pretty much in 2 weeks. The week or two before, I get invited to teach a breath work at a float studio in Hamilton. And the guy's telling me how great the float business is. So you attract these kind of people, you can make good money, and like it's really easy. All the things I wanted to hear, or I needed to hear. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm building a float studio. And when I made that commitment, it was like, I want to be of service to people. And then after that, the guy who told me to do the float studio, I hated his guts for about 6 months. I have a construction business. I'm trying to do this whole thing by myself to save money. End up like having to sign my house on the line, spending all of my life savings in this place. Six, maybe I thought I could do it in 6 months. I'm 9 months. I'm still not open yet. Waiting for approvals, waiting for like, like just like crazy delays. The tanks came in, one of them wasn't working. I remember like halfway through this, like stressed out, I started smoking. The guys on the job site were like having butts. I started hacking butts with them because it was like in my mind, okay, just take my mind off. Drinking wine every night, just ruining my health. Stress levels to the roof, not sleeping. And I'm like, what did I do? Dude, you fucked up, man. Like in Vaughan, like they're not ready for this. Like, these are the people you're trying to trying to like be like them, and now you're putting something that's total opposite. So all this like self-doubt started coming up, all this fear started coming up, and I remember even calling a psychic at the time to do a card reading on the phone, and she pulls out this card. I'll never forget. It was a tower card, a water tower or something. I'm not too much in those cards. She's like, ooh, she's like, that's bad. I'm like, oh.
That's all you need.
She's like, you're gonna have water problems. Can you exit the business right now? Like, this is bad. Like, this is like the worst reading. Like, I'm like, thanks for like laying it easy on me, right? And I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, okay, like I guess I'm gonna have to like just deal with whatever happens. And I had a hard time doing that. So the first 3 to 6 months go by, I'm in this really scarcity mindset, fear, and I'm attracting those people who are coming in. Same mindset. They're asking for deals, they got no money, they're like giving up on life and like all this kind of stuff. And I had to face my own fears because I started thinking about failure, losing my house, moving back in with my parents, going bankrupt, all my friends
assuming worst case scenario.
All worst case.
You're
So
living
I'm
into
in
the
fear.
future of...
I'm in fight or flight, adrenaline's flowing, cortisol's flowing, mine started going into like, and I had this like almost like a rock bottom of accepting all of it and really getting clear on like what was my intention to serve people. I said, if all this goes wrong, I'll deal with it. It'll be okay. I'll be in the world. What's really important is the people in my life, not all these things that I thought was important before. And I was able to see that in a way that I hadn't really seen it before, but I had to bring myself to that place. Saying, look what you're doing to yourself, because you're thinking in your mind about something that hasn't even happened, right? But you're using all of these things as the markers of, is it successful or not? Or are you successful? Like, what is it saying about you?
Right.
And so I said, okay, from this day on, I'm just going to serve every person that walks this door as if they're the only person on earth and they matter the most. And I'm just going to show up for them in any way that I can. And so I started doing that. And then like different employees started coming. People started quitting. New people started coming. New energy starts coming in. Then it starts getting a little bit busier. And then I started really feeling like, okay, these other businesses, I got to decide. I got to cut the cord because they're holding me back. Yeah. And the construction company, I walked away, huge investment. Like the partners didn't have the cash to buy me out, nor did they want to. They were just like, whatever. There were some interesting circumstances around that I don't want to share. But it was just really hard for me to exit that. And the food business I was in, we were making nutless clusters, they were called. There are a lot of supermarkets. Food business is a long road to making a big buyout at the end. A lot of overhead, a lot of growth, expanding like cost of goods sold, inventory, R&D. And I decided, okay, these both got to go. Like, I'm not aligned with the partners anymore. I don't feel good about the business. I don't want to do it. I was forcing myself to do all that with the sales business to the side. So I had a good talk with my partners and I just said, listen, I'm out. And they didn't want me to leave. And because they felt like they needed me. Right. And I realized that I always felt in the past I needed a partner. And this was the only business I didn't have a partner. Because I was afraid to fail alone, I realized, and I thought someone else was going to make me rich. They were going to do something, I was going to just ride the coattails. I realized this later. Although I could contribute it, in the back of my mind, I was like, they're going to help me do it because I can't do it by myself. And I started having all these realizations about all my fears in life, about who I was and all this kind of stuff. And it all came together in one thing. So, okay, got to cut these off. Take the loss. Like whatever, I'll make it back, or I need this energy to put into something that I'm really passionate about. So I cut those two things out of my life. And like the next day, like everything just started happening. Opportunities started coming. Place got busier. And I realized like this place that I built, like, I don't think it was ever intended to be a profitable business. Like from that day where I decided like I was just going to serve people, I never had to put another penny into it. It just became self-sufficient after that. And when I look back now, I realize all these businesses that I'm in now that actually make me a lot more money than I could have ever imagined before, all came because I had this place. And I was attracting people who I was aligned with that wanted to work with me because of what I built and who I really was, not who I was pretending to be. Everyone who I was pretending to be was trying to take money from me. Got it. They were trying to like, I had something of value for them or they had something of value to me, and we're in business trying to like screw each other. That's what I feel like all the old business I was, every single across the table is like, how can I get the best of this deal and give him the least? Right? And the float industry was different because everyone's trying to support each other. Everyone's like, hey, how do we make this industry better for everyone? If we all do a great job, we all support each other, more people are gonna want to do this. And like I was scared of that at first. I was like, hey, I'm not telling you my secrets. I'm not telling you what to do for advertising. But they were just like, here's what I did. Here's my business plan. Here's everything. So it shifted me. It's like, hey, this can work. Supporting other people can work. Win-win works. And then like we founded a personal development school. A friend of mine, Thais Gibson, she came in there because I had this place. I wanted to become a life coach because I want to offer those services to people because I felt like I want to serve them at a higher level. She comes in as a guinea pig. and she's like serving people. She has all these one-on-one clients. She's totally booked months in advance. I'm just coaching her through the processes. She's like, listen, you got to change this. You got to think about how you could scale this, maybe going online, maybe doing this, give her some options. A week later, she's like, hey, you have to partner with me. And I'm like, oh, I'm just getting out of some businesses. I don't know if I need another business. But I just really listened to my heart. And it was like, yeah, just help her out, see what happens. Like, so we went through that, and like, that's just blew up, like scaling. We have all these members, we're helping all these people. We have an amazing team. It just feels really good.
And this was a personal development.
It's called Personal Development School. It's online. We're building our own platform now. Okay. We have like 15 employees. We have a monthly membership. And then when COVID happened, like that business even took off even more because a lot of people had more time. And then COVID happened, and people started asking me like, hey, now you have time. Why don't you train us how to do breathwork? I never thought about that. Like, this was my thing. You know, this was like the ego comes up. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you doing this? You know, to be your thing, to be like, hey, this is my style of breath work, because no one else's. And it's like, no, you're here to serve. And the best we can serve is by sharing this with as many people as possible. They feel called to the style of breath work. Like, who are you to say, like, no, like, this is mine? And I was like, okay, yeah, it's right. I don't know if I guess I'm talking to myself or God or whatever. It's okay. So then I just shared it with them. I started sharing with other people that have gone and made it into their own thing. You know, we have like 70 facilitators now. They're sharing it. And I realized, like, when they started sharing with me the experiences they were having with their family members, people in their community, and came back and told me, that was just as fulfilling, if not more, than me facilitating an experience directly for someone. It just filled me up the same way. I was like, wow, like, this is how it works. You know, it's about like abundance. Like, it was showing me abundance, you know? And, you know, I try to live my life that way now. I'm not trying to get my mind involved. Like, hey, is this a good investment? Because if I just use that business brain, like, I would have closed Elemental probably like after 6 months or 12 months, find it out, try to get rid of it, try to recover what I could and move on. But something kept me going, you know, to tell me like, hey, look, it's not always black and white, cut and dry. Like, you can't just do everything based on numbers. That's like the mind. You have to go into the heart and go into feeling and go into like trust. And a really good book that I read that I recommend to everyone, there's a couple, but one is The Surrender Experiment.
Oh yeah, Michael Singer.
Yeah, and I recommend that to everyone. I've probably shared it, and someone shared that with me at Elemental. They came in, they left it there, like, here, you should read this. Like, I'm not gonna read that book. Yeah. And eventually I read it, and it was like, okay, like, it's about like really everything that happens. Don't try to judge it as good or bad. Like, allow it to happen, unfold. You never know what the outcome's gonna be. And then that became sort of like the mantra for my life. It's like, okay, things are happening. COVID happened. It was like a blessing in many ways for me. I'm down in Costa Rica because of it, right? And and then now I'm just trying to like find balance, right? Because now I have all these opportunities, things that I love to do. Like, I'm, you know, doing still breathwork class because I love it. I'm doing the facilitator training. We had the school taking off. I've sort of divested from all the old businesses that I'm not aligned with anymore. I'm just trying to follow this path of like connecting with interesting people that I want to spend time getting to know more, like yourself and other people, and really just doing businesses where I can be involved in that make an impact, that fill me up, that inspire me, and that are fun, you know, that are exciting, that are not like feel like so heavy. And like, when I get that feeling, I know right away, okay, something needs to change here.
The thing I love about the Surrender Experiment is it's a story of a man who just says yes to life, yes to adventure, who just trusts that the universe wants us to win, and that if we listen to our intuition, we listen to our heart, and like you said, get out of the head and just drop into our heart and just say, okay, rather than think about the worst case scenario, what would the best case scenario look like, and what does my heart want in this moment? Because again, our ego, the fear, protection, tries to save us from doing things that put us at risk, but you know, no risk, no reward. So, you know, you mentioned a few times where you kind of stepped off the ledge. So you have different businesses, different investments, and you've found this thing called breathwork that you're really passionate about. And you have a choice. Okay, do I create this space? Do I take my passion and what I love and turn it into a profession? Or do I just focus on doing what I already know to do? So like, that's a huge choice to make. And you've got a wife and you've got 2 kids. And, you know, I would love to hear, what was that internal dialogue? Like, what was it you were facing that you had to overcome to step into that? Because a lot of people out there right now, they're in a position where they don't love their job anymore. They don't love what they're doing. And like you looking at your old hands, they're thinking, I could do this for another 30, 40 years, but I'm not going to be happy. And there are people out there, especially during times like this, where there's so much change and people are just reconsidering what do they want and what makes them happy. What was your thought process, and what was it that had you step off the ledge and really fully commit to bringing breath work to the masses?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like there were moments in it where I was like upset at my wife because she was the one who convinced me not to have any partners. Like every time you have a partner, like it starts good, you have a good run, and then at the end you guys change. Well, everyone always going to change. It's inevitable change. And I realize now, like I had to put myself in a situation where I couldn't get myself out of it. In the past, I would try to get out, I'd sell, I'd make a deal, whatever. I always find a way. If things didn't go the way I felt good about it, I could find a way out. And in this one, there was no way out. And I really just had to trust in the process. And what's beautiful about the surrender experiment, and a lot that's been coming up for me lately, is like, are you like living, or are you trying not to die? Are you just, and the ego likes certainty, even if it's uncomfortable and sucks. What's the uncertainty is what's scary for most people. But I think it's also what's the most liberating.
Absolutely.
And so, when you can start looking at things as, hey, this might not be good or bad. And there's this fable, this Chinese fable, I always ruin it, but it goes something along the lines of, there's a guy in a town and this horse comes, and it's a wild horse, and the whole town is like, no, the horse runs away, and the town comes like, oh, you're so unlucky, what luck you have. And the guy's like, oh, we'll see, we'll see. The next day the horse comes back, and it comes back with like 3 wild horses. And like, oh, look how lucky you are. He's like, now you have 4 horses. We thought you were unlucky. He's like, well, we'll see. And the next day his son is trying to tame the wild horse, falls off, breaks his leg, and all the people in the town are like, oh, look, it's such a bad omen. You're so unlucky. He's like, we'll see. The next day a war breaks out, and they're coming to collect all the young kids to go to war, and the son can't go because he's got a broken leg. They're like, oh, you're so lucky. And it's like such a good example of like, we don't know what the outcome's going to be of our decisions. But if we try to determine beforehand what it is, then you're going to be stuck. You're not going to be able to move. You're going to be very stagnant. And so if you can start looking at, life is just things that happen, and, your perception is what's going to determine if it's good or bad. If you just let go to it, amazing things could happen. Just as much probability as, what your fears are.
And if we also choose to take on the belief and perspective that, okay, I might not like what's happening to me right now, but this experience is being given to me for a reason, for me to learn, for me to grow. And if we choose to take that perspective of, okay, universe is giving this experience to me because there's something that I need to learn to overcome here, then you can be empowered about the situation and know that it might not make sense right now, but down the road, you're going to know why this happened. Absolutely. So it's going from the perspective it's happening to me to it's happening for me. And just that small shift transforms your energy, transforms your perspective on how you're going to deal with it.
And it's so hard to see when you're in it. Like when you're in that hole, when you're just like stressed and you're just like, I want this to end. And when people come to me, other clients or friends, they're like, hey, I need help, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, I'm so excited for you right now because like you're on the verge. The catalyst for change is right there. It's in your grasp, and something's pushing you because you've been sitting too much, and the push gets stronger, and you hold on a little bit more. It gets stronger until eventually it's going to be a shove. And it's going to get thrown back until you're ready to change. And you can be in your suffering for as long as you want, and they'll make excuses. I can't because. And like, why not? Like, what's really, why are you holding on to that so much for? And when people start really like looking at what they're actually holding on to, sometimes they'll see it, sometimes they won't. But, every time I look back at the challenging points in my life, and there's been so many that I haven't even shared today, but every single one of them created this shift in my life direction. And I'm so grateful for it now because it brought me to where I am. And sometimes it took me somewhere even worse before it got better, right? But these are all the things we need to learn. And I looked at, like people ask, like, why do you think there's bad going on in the world right now? And, I think ultimately we're here as souls to learn.
Absolutely.
And, every experience is a learning opportunity. And there has to be the bad players in the game, in the simulation or the matrix, whatever you want to call it, in life. There's people playing a role, and they play a role for you. They're playing a role for themselves. And you need that kind of like, you need that kind of dichotomy. You need that different energy to make it interesting,
Absolutely.
to make it worthwhile and exciting.
Well, it's the concept of duality. You know,
Right.
you have to have light and dark. You have to have, you know, the good and the bad, because otherwise, if everything was just good, there would be nothing for us to learn, and we wouldn't even know good was good if we didn't have bad. You know,
Right.
so all of this is absolutely necessary. And it's Earth school for our souls to learn
Absolutely.
and evolve and transcend to the next level of consciousness.
And business fits into that. People say like, hey, how come, like, you know, is business, where does business fit in? Yeah, it's part, because like, how are you interacting through your business to serve, to make decisions? You know, it's interesting as I look back, it's like, wow, like it really helped me to learn. Now that I have more, you know, like, I wouldn't say like I'm a spiritual guy, but I believe in spirit, and I believe in higher powers. I believe in a creator, and I believe in all these things happen for a reason. And you can see how, like, wow, you know, all these things sort of helped to mold me to who I am today. And I'm super grateful. But when you're in that space, you know, you have to just get ready to take a leap. Like, if you know in your heart that what you're going through right now doesn't feel good, what you've been doing for the last 10 years doesn't feel good, it's been getting louder, and you're feeling it, it's like, hey, you're gonna have to make some decisions. You have to cut some of these anchors or these ropes that are holding you back, and set yourself free. And don't be afraid of what's on the other end, because I'll tell you, you know, probably 9 times out of 10, if you just trust the process, there's something beautiful. And, you know, with the plant medicine, it's always showed me that, you know, nature rewards courage. You know, I didn't say that. I think it's a line from Terence McKenna, but I use that when I go into ceremony and when I'm afraid, and I take that next cup of ayahuasca. It's like, okay, like, show me courage. I want to go where I need to go. I'm ready to die right now if I have to. And whenever I say that, I know, like, hey, when you commit to this, you're gonna go through some shit.
You're going all in.
But you know what can be on the other side. And so you go through this shit, and you see yourself, and you see like the parts of yourself you don't want to see, the things you've done in your life that you regret, or you're like,
stuff you've suppressed.
What kind of person am I, or how could someone do that to me? And it just, stuff doesn't feel good. But then you see, and you come through, and you see like the balance and the wholeness of how that had to happen, how you needed that to learn to be where you are now. And then it shows you this beautiful like insights, and this beautiful other side of all that fear and stuff that's holding you back. And so I try to bring that into life. Like, when do I feel the same in life? When I feel like I have to have some courage or to trust. And, you know, every day now I'm going through it, you know, it's just like, hey, you know, like, a lot of people are looking for certainty. Tell me what to do. What do I need to do? And what's the all-time certainty is like government, religion, like, hey, this is what you got to do. This is what's going to happen. Here's what you do. It's like, how do you trust yourself to make good decisions and to not be afraid of what could potentially happen? You know, and ayahuasca showed me, it was like, just a month ago, I went to Rhythmia, and there was another opportunity that came up just through being this, just randomly. It's like, hey, you know, come and teach here. And I got there right when they opened too, and it was just a perfect opportunity. I became friends with Jerry, the owner, and they're doing some great work over there. And I went for a session, and before the sessions, I was just talked to one guy really, and his name was Freedom. And I wasn't sure my intention was gonna be that night. I said, okay, like, I want to explore, like, what does freedom actually mean? And it was like, freedom is a concept of the mind. And when you really want to sort of look at freedom, when you start looking at losing things, and those are all your attachments, whether it's people you love, whether it's things in life that you can't go to a restaurant anymore or do this, it was just showing me like how attached I am to that. And it said, if you're truly free of attachments, you know, no one can take anything from you. You're completely free.
True.
That's true freedom. Even if, you know, everyone's going to die in your life. They are. So you want to hold on to them, or do you want to just be at peace with loving them as much as you can, and knowing that you were in that relationship to the fullest, and when it's that time, that you feel good about everything that had happened. And even if you get put in a box, in a cell, and you can be at peace with that and go within, you can be always free. And fuck, it was like such a deep lesson, where it was like, sometimes I'll have an ayahuasca experience where it's very visual and I know I'm in the medicine, and at this one it was all introspective. I wasn't seeing anything. I had it a little bit and went away. And for me, when it goes away, I feel like, okay, the medicine's gone. And I was just like, am I just imagining this lesson in my head? And then as soon as I asked that question, the colors came back, and it was like an affirmation from ayahuasca. I was like, no, like, this is the truth.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. In that moment, like, I just was like, tears are coming down. I was like, okay, I get it. You know, and all these challenges are coming, you know, to liberate us from, you know, what we think is true freedom, I guess. Or for me anyways, with, you know, the impending everything that's going on, right? And I don't need to, people know what I'm talking about. So anyways.
Now, you'd mentioned a few times you've trusted your intuition along the way, that, you know, when you returned that law book, you know, or times where you decided to go all in on the breathwork facility or elemental, doing the floats. And many people, I feel, struggle to trust their intuition. we are all intuitive. We all have the ability to connect to our higher selves and receive those intuitive downloads and all that. However, a lot of people don't trust their own gut, trust their own instinct. And I have had some amazing moments of clarity during my breathwork sessions, where, I've had sessions that have been as powerful as a plant medicine journey. And I've gotten such direct guidance, just such clear instructions on what I need to do, how, when, with who, and all that. And it's my own voice talking to me. So how powerful or how influential has breathwork been for you in guiding you in making these choices that have allowed you to now be on this path?
Yeah, it's huge. Because the breathing sort of shuts down the analytical mind. It changes the blood flow to different regions in your brain. It just allows you to sort of shut up and have some quiet space. And that's
now,
where things...
Can you speak to the biology of that? Because it actually, from what I understand, and I'll let you share it, but it actually does shut down a part of your brain.
Yeah, so it slows down blood to the frontal lobe. And just from breathing, you have vasoconstriction. Also, when you're breathing, the red blood cells, because you're expelling carbon dioxide, so your carbon dioxide levels start to drop. And this is specific types of breathing. And what happens is the red blood cells, the hemoglobin, holds on to oxygen. So it's holding the blood. It's raising the alkalinity, changing the pH of your blood, but it's also starving some of the tissues a bit. So it's like your brain thinks it's kind of dying a little bit. And they say it may release DMT and just really changes the blood flow to different regions of the analytical mind and just brings you into this sort of state of being. And I think that ayahuasca and these plant medicines also do this similar sort of thing where it shuts down the noise. And when you're in a place of quiet, and also meditation, you do the same thing. When you can really get quiet, you allow things to come from somewhere else. And whether it's from yourself, from God, the creator, the universe, the
or
source,
from your subconscious
mind,
that you suppressed,
which I think is all connected. It's all tapped into to something that's beyond our understanding, at least at this point in humanity. We don't really understand. And when you allow that to come through more, so you get into this flow and life becomes more interesting, easier. You allow it to sort of be what it is and not, oh my God, analysis paralysis, every little thing you have to stop and use your mind to sort of determine, should I do this or should I do it? You find this trust that comes in this different way. And when you hear that voice, there's a knowing that's different from when you're thinking in your mind. Yeah. It's should I do this? Should I not?
And that voice coming from your heart. It's coming from your higher self. And I find that the more you listen to that voice, the more you lean into that truth, your intuition gets louder.
Yeah.
And I also feel that when you're, you said earlier, nature rewards the courage. Yeah. And another quote is, universe favors the bold.
Right.
So when you take that step, and, I had a similar step where, I was here in Costa Rica, I was hosting my first retreat, and I was so in love with everything that was happening. I had felt so lit up. I was like, I want to do this every day. This is what I want to do. And in that moment, I made the choice to close down Blowfish after 15 years. And just like you took the step off the ledge to open up Elemental, mine was to go all in on creating the live experience and close down Blowfish and walk away from $1 million to do so. And I had that voice saying, no, this is what you want to do. This is what's lighting you up. This is what feels good.
And I think to that is the misconception most people think is, I need money to be happy. And if I lose my source of income, if I lose all the stuff I've accumulated, if I lose those relationships that people probably only like you because you have what you have and not for who you really are, can I live on? But maybe you don't really want any of that deep down inside. You want that experience you had, and how to get more of that, you have to leave all that behind. You have to get rid of it completely.
Sure. Well, in that moment, it was my identity and my ego being like, well, if I close down Blowfish, I'm going to look like a failure. And if I look like a failure, nobody's going to want to do business with me anymore. And my reputation is going to be shot. But then I thought, but I don't even want to open another restaurant or club. So what the hell do I care what people think of me? And I want to be known for this. Serving expensive sushi and bottles of vodka is fun and all, but I want to be known for this. Like you said, when you started sharing your breath work with people and they're telling you what's happening to their families and how their life is changing on so many different levels, that fulfillment is greater than any 20K commission or
it's going directly to the source of what you're looking for in life. Again, you can't buy that.
No.
You can make as much money as you want. And I knew a lot of people that had a lot of money, like, because I was seeking that out, trying to connect with
true
people.
fulfillment.
And half of them were happy, half of them were very unhappy.
Yeah. And humans, we all, at our core, we all want to feel significant. We all want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like our time during this life actually meant something. And with your breathwork sessions, with my retreats, something can switch for someone, and that is that pivotal moment in their life where a new opportunity opens up for them. They choose a new path, you know,
Seed
and
has been planted.
It is, it's better than money, you know, and when you do it and you do it well, the money comes, you know, which is the, I guess, ironic part of it. Like you said, you started this business knowing that it might not even be profitable, but as a result of it, it's opened so many new doors for you.
Yeah. And even the breath work, like doing the certification training, it's like nothing I really planned to do.
Yeah.
And I never even really treat it like a real business. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna structure it as it goes. I'm gonna keep letting it evolve. It's the most organic thing I've ever done. And it's like, I don't have to advertise. Every single training is full. You know, like people feel called to it.
Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I'm sure some of you who are watching at this point are like, okay, I want to learn about this breathwork thing, or I want to learn how to teach it. And you're providing trainings now. You do them online and you do them in person.
We do them online. So when COVID happened, again, like another blessing, like I didn't think I could do them online. I was like, how am I going to teach this online? It's kind of like an in-person type of thing. But, you know, we tried it and it worked. And like then people were doing it in person after the online training, and we're getting the same experiences. So then I knew it worked. And we just kept, okay, let's do the next one. 3 months from now, we'll do another one. Fills up. Yeah. Another one. So people come have the experience, like, oh, I want to share this, and anyone can share it. Like I think it should just be a skill taught in school, how to lead breathwork for your family and your friends. You know, like, hey, I'll lead one for you, you lead one for me, because it helps you to release emotions, helps you get clarity, helps you to feel lighter, relieve stress. It does all these amazing things. It just helps people feel happier.
And it's just our breath. Like we all have this technology, this ability to change our state, shut down our mind, tap into source,
create connections on a deeper level with people. Like there's so many amazing positive things that come out with this, and it's risk-free pretty much. Like no one's ever really got hurt doing breath work. You know, maybe they got dizzy when they got up and tripped and fell, but the actual breath work didn't do that, you know? So, you know, it's just win-win-win around the table, and it just started growing organically. And I recommend people that try it first, make sure you feel called. But a lot of people that try it, they feel this calling. It's like, hey, I can do this. And anyone can do it. If you feel called, anyone can do it. Yeah. So, you know, I open up the training and just say like, hey, if you resonate with my breath work, I'm not trying to compete or knock any other breath work. I think every breath work is great. I think you know, you want to look for a facilitator that's for sure humble and that comes from the heart. Like for me, that's what I look for in a coach and a facilitator. You know, because there are some people that are onto every trend trying to make money for the wrong reasons. Even in the psychedelic industry, I see that too. But they're all good. If you feel resonate with a style, like go for it, dive into it, practice it yourself. And then, you know, most of them are offering trainings now, because I think there should be more breathwork facilitators than there are yoga instructors. I think more people can do it. You don't have to be in shape. You don't have to be flexible. You just have to sort of push yourself. You know, breathe.
And breathwork's been around as long as yoga. Like breathwork essentially is pranayama.
Yeah,
right?
Forever.
And I agree that the availability is limited because the awareness, you know, people are just starting to discover breathwork. Thankfully, you know, Mr. Wim Hof, he's really put it out there. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of celebrities and a lot of, you know, health influencers are now sharing the powers of breathwork. You know, people like Aubrey Marcus and a lot of these other, you know, very influential people, Joe Rogan, are swearing by the profound impact of breathwork. There are different platforms now available. I know you said you were recording some sessions as well. There's an app I use called Othership. We talked about that earlier, Robbie and those guys. You know, great platform. It's kind of like Calm or Insight Timer, but for breath work. So it's happening. You know, it's starting to become more mainstream, which is great, because I think breath work, psilocybin, ayahuasca, all these medicines that have been around for thousands of years are now resurfacing and hitting the mainstream, because more now than ever, the planet needs it. You know, with the mental health, depression, anxiety, suicide. Absolutely. You know, it's really a powerful, powerful tool that anyone can do in their home, 5 minutes in the morning. And
it'll change your whole day.
Yeah.
It'll change your whole day.
You know, especially like as entrepreneurs, you know, every day we deal with stress, we deal with pressure. And if you imagine a pressure cooker, we just like keep building up that pressure, more and more steam, more and more steam. And the breath work just allows you like,
Right.
you know, let a little bit of steam out every day. And
I've been going down to the beach 5 a.m. every day and just
Yeah.
bring my little speaker, put it on, a few of us go there and just we breathe. And then we
Yeah.
jump in the ocean and just like, you know, changes the whole day, change your mindset. So I highly recommend, you know, finding a way to do it. Even just sitting there, slowing your breath and paying attention to it is enough.
Yeah.
That's breath work, you know. And I love the fact that there's so much to it. You know, there's so many different types of breath work, so many different styles, and anyone can find something that resonates with them.
Yeah, it's like yoga. Many different styles. You got to find the one that resonates for you, whether it be holotropic, whether it be breath of fire. There's
What's transformational? There's so much breath. There's so many out there.
And there's the elemental style,
elemental rhythm, guys. Check that out.
Yeah.
On our website, we offer a lot of like guided tracks and courses to teach about breath work. Because I just want to give. Like, and the other thing I realized, another great book called The Go Giver, someone at Elemental gave it to me. And I was already doing a lot of things in that book, but it was just like this mentality of just give. Like, the more you give, the more you receive. And again, like for me, like when I started, it was like transactional. It's like, hey, I give, then the guy owes me something. You know, like, oh, he owes me a favor, or I gave him like $20. Like, I want that back, writing it all down. But it was like the more I just gave, and like from my heart, because I just wanted to give, like more came. You know, and it's hard to wrap your head around. But as you start doing it, you just see like, oh wow, these things just are falling into place, you know. And some people say it's just luck. I say, no, it just comes from this abundance attitude where you just give and you receive tenfold. Yeah. So
because when you're giving, even though you're giving, you're experiencing gratitude, having the ability to give, and gratitude is one of the highest vibrational frequencies. So, you know, like attracts like. When you're in a high vibration, you're emitting that energy, that frequency. You know, you're gonna draw back like
two keys to that, if you're listening, is one, giving without expectation. That's one key. And you're gonna be real with yourself. Only you're gonna know if there's an expectation of why you're giving. And number two is be open to receiving, because some people just give and they never are open to receiving. So when things come your way, like, give it to yourself. You know, you deserve it. So be open to receive. And I found a lot of people that are in the spiritual path, just want to give and they don't want to receive. Right. And then they find themselves like no money, or they're like just struggling. It's like, you got to be open. You got to open that sort of that reciprocity. So like you can give, but you can also receive. So I think that's really important.
So one thing I'd love for you to share, because, you know, some people struggle with, as I mentioned before, tapping into their intuition. So for someone out there who's watching or listening to this right now, and they've got a big decision to make, or they have trouble trusting their own judgment, their own inner knowing, what would you suggest that someone does when they are facing a big life decision, you know, and they don't know which way to go, and they're caught up in their head of the worst case scenario, they're in the fear or scarcity mindset? How would you suggest someone kind of shifts their perspective, or allows, you know, that opening for their intuition to really show up and guide them?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's hard one to answer, because there is no like one answer that'll work for everyone. But you have to find a way to make some space, first of all, from your thoughts. You know, so, you know, like we mentioned, breath work, could be psychedelics, could be just like going for walks in the park or nature, trying meditation. Some people it's working out. You got to get yourself into a space of just creating some space to just slow down a little bit. Then you're going to start listening to your feelings. A lot of people I find, these type A personalities, very successful, they have trouble going to here. They're really strong up here because that's become a survival mechanism for them. They may have had a rough childhood, or they may have like, you know, got into this sort of thing like, hey, for me to be important, for me to be seen and heard, I need to be successful. You know, start trying to feel into your feelings, because your feelings is basically a GPS to your soul, to where you need to put focus in your life. And really sort of try to visualize like it's kind of weird because chicken before the egg, but look at the areas of your life that are important to you, and try to think about how you want to feel in those areas, relationships, career. And I don't mean like I want to feel successful. Like, what does success feel like to you? What's the feeling? Is it happy, joy, excitement, curiosity? Look at each area of your life, relationships, your wealth, and just how do you want to feel? And from that feeling, try to visualize what that life looks like. And the more you start doing that, feeling and visualizing, you're going to see these opportunities to create that shift are going to pop up. You know, if your mind is always thinking about the worst case scenario, you're going to track that. That's how the brain works, the reticular activating system. You tell it what to do, it goes and tries to find those opportunities. So if you're thinking worst case scenario all the time, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go fail, I'm going to do this, it's like it thinks you want that because you're putting that program in. So it's like, look for all these opportunities to like, fail. But if you start spending a few moments, like, how do I want to feel? What does that look like? Just like spend some time just visualizing that. Those things are going to start coming. The more you have awareness to see them, because you're not in fight or flight all the time, because you create some space, you can start grabbing onto those opportunities and trust your intuition. If something feels curious to you or interesting, don't be afraid. Have a conversation. Do a research. Do a Google search. And the more you start listening to that, the more you start seeing like synchronicity, they're going to say, hey, wait, there actually is something here. This is not that woo stuff. Like synchronicity is real. And what I think is that it's always there, but you just don't have the awareness to see it because you're focusing your attention on something else. Yeah. And so those are a few tips I would give someone. And again, it's hard, like I know it's really hard when you're in that space, but like any one of those things you can do will help you and reward yourself for the little wins. Hey, I took 5 minutes today. Yes, amazing. Some people are like, hey, if I don't do an hour on the treadmill and, do like 15 reports at work and this and that, I failed. It's like, no, like set something that's out of your ordinary and reward yourself. Hey, I was able to shut off my mind for 2 minutes today. I was able to go and take a bubble bath. I was able to go walk in nature for 10 minutes. That's amazing. Because from there you build momentum. And a year from now you look back like, wow, that first walk in nature that I said, I'm going to just do this every day. And like, look at me now, on a whole new career path. I met Zark on the path and, now I'm breeding those beautiful, what's the dog called again? The one you have, your dog? Samoyed, because you saw Zark walking on the path in Costa Rica. Like, who knows, right? But it's like, be open to awareness, see what lights you up and sort of follow that. Yeah. Again, easier said than done. I know you might be there like, yeah, that's easy. You did it and whatever. But like, I doubted myself too so many times.
It starts somewhere small. It starts with, like you said, which is 5 minutes. Just start walking, just start your first step.
Yeah, that's what I'd say to that.
Yeah, cool. So if people want to learn more about Elemental, want to learn more about magic you do,
you can check out GiovanniBartolomeo.com. I'm on Instagram, Elemental Geo, elementalrhythm.com. It's all the breathwork stuff. There's a 7-day free trial. You can go in. There's videos there. There's sample tracks. And then on the website it says when the next trainings are. If you're curious, reach out. On YouTube, I got some videos on there about psychedelics, about all kinds of stuff. Just look up my
your documentaries on there too.
Documentaries on there for free. It's on Gaia. It's on Amazon TV. Amazing. It's got a few cool places.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so check that out. Amazing. And listen, I'm very accessible. Reach out, send me an email, shoot me a message. I'd love to chat if anything.
Yeah, I'll put all that down below in the show notes so people know how to find you. And for any of you that struggle with quieting the mind in meditation, 5 to 10 minutes of breath work will have you just, it's like switches off and you can just drop in so deep. That's my little meditation hack, and breathwork's made a huge difference for that. Thanks for taking the time to join me, sharing your story, and I'm happy you're down here in the Nosado community, and
it's great to be here,
and I'm excited to do your teacher training. Is it teacher training or it's a breathwork
facilitator
training?
Facilitator
training. In a few weeks, next month. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and just thank you for inviting me on this show and giving me the opportunity to share with your audience here, and just thank you for all the things you're doing and leading by example. It's really important to see people transition and then be so inspired and to keep going, and so you're doing great work, and just thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, thank you. And just like you, as you said, you experience breath work, you just want to put it out there, and I always tell people everything I talk about now, I had no clue about any of this stuff 7 years ago. So as I learn, I just want to put it out there because that's how we heal, right? Like they say, when you heal yourself, you heal the world and the planet, and that's what we're doing. So happy to be on this healing journey with you.
Amen to that.
All right, brother.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Peace.